Yo, what's poppin', folks? It's your boy Tacho here, and we're back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes. Okay, so we got our TMS Hall of Forms at last, a game that a lot of people thought that they were gonna skip, simply because there's a lack of units from this game. But I always knew that they were gonna do it, and the reason why is because if they have a game with only 4 units available besides the Tempest Trial unit, and all of those units are 5-star banner exclusives, what better way to sell the Forma Soul than to actually do a Hall of Forms with those units? So it's like a dead giveaway to me. If they want to try to boost sales and try to sell some of these relatively rare units, then what better way to do it than this? And unfortunately, because of that, we're not going to get Itsuki for this round. It would have been really nice if we could. He is very easy to build up to plus 10, being a Tempest Trial prize. And just being able to deck him out with some of the best skills would have been awesome. But unfortunately, he's probably not going to be good for sales. Also, all of these units are waifus, so that's another way that they can boost their sales. But I digress. Let's actually go ahead and talk about the units and the builds for them. And we're going to start things off with Eleonora because I think she is the best of the bunch. Now, when it comes to these bow units in Hall of Forms, if you guys saw the last video I did for Claude, they just get really over the top when you can give them whatever skills you want. Deadeye being freely accessible is just really good. There's also no end to the really good bows, like Helm Bow and Spendthrift Bow, and even Fishy Bow. So, bow units are just very good. There's also Budding Bow, but I don't think you want that in particular on Eleonora. Now, her Perf Bow is actually very good. Mirage Longbow. It has the might of a Perf Bow with speed up 3, and then it also gives her the Fire Sweep effect, assuming that she is faster than the foe she's attacking. So, a very powerful weapon, and it's just a straight upgrade to Fire Sweep Bow itself. But she can make use of some of these other powerful bows as well, like Helm Bow, coming innately with Lull Speed and Defense 5. I think that could be nice. Spendthrift Bow is just going to raise her bulk and power, so that's also not bad. And Fishy Bow has the built-in Desperation, so you could do some pretty crazy shenanigans with that. Now, for the A-slot passive, she comes with Attack and Speed Push 4, which is arguably the best attack and speed skill in the game. So it's really hard to top that, but we do have some nice options you could give her. If you want to go for a bulky build and want to go for like Spendthrift Bow and Sturdy Impact, you can make it so Eleonora can hit the foes, take a counterattack herself, and possibly get very low on health, and then you'd be able to queue up some Wings of Mercy tactics with your other units. This could be nice for Aether Raids on a defense team. So in this one situation, you may want to take a hit with Eleonora as opposed to going for the Fire Sweep effect with her own weapon. There's also Flashing Blade 4 if you want to try to ramp into specials and basically just spam Deadeyes left and right. Or you could try ARD Attack and Speed 3. A couple of people were arguing with me because they don't think that the Aether Raid skills are in Hall of Forms, but I can guarantee you that they are. I just don't have a screenshot at the moment to prove it. But I know for a fact that I was playing in Hall of Forms one round, and I swear that I saw ARD Defense and Res one time. Obviously, I didn't pick it up because it's Hall of Forms, and those AR skills are not going to come into play in there. But just take my word for it, they are in Hall of Forms. So if you're lucky enough to find one, then maybe you want to pick it up. In the B slot, she comes with Ruse Speed and Defense already. Again, a pretty good skill, but you do have other options like Special Spiral or Lull Speed and Defense and Null Follow-Up. Just pretty much the cream of the crop when it comes to B skills for offense. And finally, for the C slot, you could go for Times Pulse or Panic Smoke or Joint Drive Speed. I think Times Pulse is probably going to be the nastiest option overall, just because it lets you get to Deadeye a lot faster, and then it means one less unit on the team that has to have Infantry Pulse in order for you to just start with Deadeye right away. But the other options aren't too bad either, so just go ahead and pick your favorite when you're building her. Okay, in next place, I think we have Kiria. And unfortunately for Kiria, she is a red tome unit, meaning that there's really not that many good inheritable tomes for her to get. Rower Fox just became free to play on Knoll, the 4-star that everybody got some free copies of, and he's going to be added to the banners very shortly. So I don't really think you want to pick up Router Fox in here. So that means our only rare tome option left is Rower Serpent, and it's basically just built-in Distant Defense 3 on a tome. So it's not even really that good in comparison to her own perf weapon. But if you're just trying to deck out your unit with some of the rarest skills, then I don't see why you wouldn't go for the hardest option to obtain. And as for builds when it comes to Kiria, you pretty much just want to focus on attack and bulk. Her weapon inflicts attack and res -6 on foes within 2 spaces. So she claps pretty hard in terms of res tanking and then dealing some serious damage. So just some example skills, we have Close Foil for the A, Attack and Defense Unity, and Mirror Stance 3. It would have been really awesome if we could have gotten Attack and Res Unity for her, but that's not going to be available just yet, since that Christmas Altina is still on a banner going on right now. But the other options will hold up quite fine, so just pick whichever one you like the best. And in the B slot, she comes with Lull, Attack, and Res already, so that's a pretty good option for her to start out with. But you could go for Special Spiral if you want to try a nuke build with her. Maybe give her like an area of effect special and Heavy Blade, so she can keep on using it over and over. There's Null Sea Disrupt if you want her to counterattack staff units and fire sweep units. And if you combo that with the Mystic Boost Seal we just got, it's going to be pretty easy for her to dismantle Cav line teams. And then Attack and Res Ruse is also an option for the support and the debuffing if you want to go for that. And finally, for the C slot, we have Time's Pulse once again, if you want her to be ran on an Infantry Pulse team and just get to her special faster. There's Joint Drive Attack for the support, and Pulse Smoke if you want her to tank a bunch of foes and be able to deal with IP teams herself. So Kiria is not a bad unit overall if you want to go for her. And then in third place, I would say, is Tsubasa. Her perf lance is one of the most bananas perf weapon in the game, I think. It gives her automatic desperation and then attack and speed up 6 if a unit on your team has already taken an action. So that's really powerful, of course. And then it's also effective against cavalry and armor. So Tsubasa is just really good. And being a lance unit, she's got access to some pretty good lances, like Its Curtains or Flowing Lance or Spirited Spear. I think Flowing Lance is pretty clutch on her, because you're not normally allowed to have lull skills on flying type units. So if you get Flowing Lance, it's just lull attack and defense 5 on her, which is pretty rad. And for the A skill, she comes with Blade Session already, but Blade Session is a little bit awkward. You're probably better off going for something like Swift Sparrow 3 or maybe even Attack and Speed Push 4 instead. There's also Sturdy Impact if you want to go for a bulky build and try to hit the foes hard and survive the counterattack. And her res isn't awful either, so maybe Distant Ward could be a decent option on her. I'd probably steer clear of Distant Counter itself because, of course, being a flying type unit, bows are going to be able to just wreck her. So Distant Ward and sticking to magic type foes is probably better. And then in the B slot, it's like just an absolute clinic when it comes to flyers. She defaults with Chill Speed 3, which you absolutely want to replace. I would say Dive Bomb should be the top priority, although her weapon already comes with the built-in Desperation effect anyway. So Dive Bomb is only going to matter if you want to change up her weapon. And it would have been really sick if Ninja Yari was in this round of Hall of Forms, but unfortunately it's not going to be. So switching out her main weapon for Dive Bomb and Ninja Yari isn't going to be a possible option, but you could still go for Flowing Lance instead and go for that lull skill. Guard Bearing won't be too shabby on the bait build if you want to go for Distant Ward. And then Speed and Defense Snag, just mainly because there's not really any other better option you could go for on Tsubasa. And finally, in the C slot, we have a whole bunch of other options as well. Attack and Speed Rain is probably going to be your best bet. There's also Odd Tempest, which could be a really clutch option for her. Or if you just want to try to set up a classic rally trap, then Ground Orders isn't bad either. So a whole bunch of options on Tsubasa. Flying type units have access to some of the nastiest skills in the game. So she's definitely not a bad unit to build up. And finally, we have the Microwave Girl, Mamori. Now, she is by far the worst option out of the bunch, being just a boring bait unit axe armor. Like, come on. How many of those do we already have in the game? So if I see anyone out there picking this microwave, I'm going to throw you in the microwave. So don't let me catch y'all picking Microwave Girl over here. Your Forma Soul is best used on somebody else. But if you must do it, then here are a couple of options for her. In terms of the weapon, Fire Sweep Axe is still the rarest axe that we can get. So you could try to go for a player phase build with her, like if you went for Bold Fighter and then Death Blow 4 and Armored Stride. Something like that could work out, but it is very questionable running player phase builds with armored units, so that's going to be up to you. It may not be too shabby though if you're trying to get Fire Sweep Axe, but there's definitely some better options. It just sucks that Huge Fan and Deck Swapper, which are basically the go-to inheritable axes, are both relatively easy to get from Daros and Hinata. But if you've already gone ahead and sacked your copies of those guys, then of course Deck Swabber and Huge Fan are some options you want to pick up. And being a bait armor type unit, you definitely want Distant Counter or Distant Ward, or maybe even Distant Foil. Any of them are going to work out just fine. Just make sure that she can counterattack distant foes, because that's mandatory on bait units. And for the B slot, you could go for either Slick Fighter or Crafty Fighter. I'm leaning mainly towards Slick Fighter because it's going to negate your own penalties, and that just makes it harder for her to get wrecked in something like Aether Raids where debuffs are everywhere. But Crafty Fighter inflicts guards, so that could be a nice option as well. And then for the C, you're free to go with Pulse Smoke or Joint Drive Res. Either of them are going to work out just fine. Just decide whether you're more afraid of infantry pulse teams or cav lines, I guess. And that pretty much wraps us up for this round of Hall of Forms. I'm probably going to use my Forma Soul to get Eleonora. I already have Tsubasa, and I'm not too interested in giving her like some crazy skills right now. But another one of those bow units with Deadeye right out the gates is going to be very enticing for me if I try to set up another defense team. So that's what I'm going to go for. Let me know in the comments section down below which of these units is your favorite, and which one are you going to pick up with your Forma Soul if you decide to go for one. But that's all for today. So this is your boy Tacho signing out. Take care, fellas, and I will catch y'all again on the flip side.